Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber, to better understand their buyers, what motivates them, and what they hate that vendors do. It's time to unmute your mic. Are you ready? Welcome back to another episode of Audience First. Today's a special episode because I have an awesome individual in the house. I have the one and only Amy Chaney. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Danny Wolf. This is a lot of fun. This is going to be a great podcast. We're going to run the range on a few topics. So let's go.
Let's dig in. And before we get to some of the juicy topics, tell me, Amy, who are you? What do you do? And why the hell do you do it?
Well, the third question, I'll start with the why. The why is because people need it. And, you search in life for ways to use talents and skills, and you can really apply them to a lot of different things. But when you start to translate the value and the impact, it's kind of addictive, and you go back and you go back. And so, technology has been that vehicle. I grew up following the tech trends, literally, IBM, Texas, South Florida, California, through Silicon Valley, back to Texas, because all tech has come here again. So I've just followed it through financial services. I played roles of, everything from risk from the second line and first line to a wide array of functional and domain ownership, third party, identity and access management, way too many times. And just a lot of the emerging technologies. Most recently, Huntington National Bank, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Citi. I'll continue on a banker's path for probably another 20, 25 years. So that's me. And I would say one more thing I'm pretty passionate about is just coaching, bringing some energy and positivity into what's otherwise like often a very bad news conversation. So, yeah.
I love it. And so you've been in this space for some time now, and I imagine you've had probably quite a wide range of different experiences. I'd love to know what you hate most about this industry.
Personal agendas don't really work for very long. The people that run them do more harm than good. And so, the whole idea about leadership and vision, there are some very good personal agendas, but they just might run cross-grain to the company or corporate culture. There are some very personally motivated ones. This group, especially through CISOs and security professionals, really coalesces like, SWAT teams or it's natural to run playbooks. There's a lot of ex-LE, ex-military folks that are minded towards strategy and getting the result. And so that kind of has spread backwards up into, I'll say, the tech stream, and started to create this collaboration mentality. I can find any day of the week in major cities an event for cyber professionals, security professionals, CIOs, CISOs. And it's harder to find for other groups and professions. And so this individual concept of I'm going to go make my name, I'm going to go execute alone, doesn't really fly, and it doesn't solve the big problems.
You mentioned personal agendas. So tell me a little bit more about that concept and why it's kind of an issue in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just to talk through the lens of personal agendas and what they do and don't do for companies. Sometimes people will develop, sort of a personal narrative or agenda because their boss is too busy, because they think it will solve a problem, they think it's good for the company, but it really hasn't been vetted, hasn't been shared, approved, or runs cross grain. Worse than that, some people just do it for personal gain, put their name on other people's work and whatever it may be, whatever tactics they might use. And so just thinking about that in light of a cyber community, a security community that comes together all the time to solve problems. And, a couple of the things that tell me the cyber community, the security community is very different today than it was even 10 years ago, is just the volume of meeting places, collaboration groups. We'll probably dig in that a little bit. It might even be an exhaustive list at this point, but there's a real need and desire for people to tackle problems together, share the good news. Hey, this worked, and inspire that. The competitive advantage in businesses isn't found through being better at cyber and boxing out your competition. It's always going to return in spades, much more than you sow to help. You see the larger banks and financial services, fintech, you see those companies helping each other. You
Mhm.
see the smaller agile companies that can pilot something, get out there and do it and make big news about it. And it gets picked up in the other direction too. Sometimes those companies even get purchased because they're that good at it.
Mhm.
So that's the spirit. And nowhere in there is, I'm going to be a star. you know, uh, I'm the most important, person here. No, the goal should be, if I step out, anyone on my team should be able to step in and do, if not the whole job, most of it. And then start to learn and grow into it. Or, there should always be a way to keep that knowledge alive. So it's my
What
thought.
I love that, and my goodness, this is why I keep these questions largely open-ended, and I
Right.
never stick to one line of questioning because it's like, we can go down so many rabbit holes, and I wanna tug on this thread a little bit, and I'm curious to know, um, you know, we have the proliferation of tech in the security space. Now it seems like we have a proliferation of communities in the space. So I'm gonna break this question down to 2. Um, 1, the first question is, why do you think there are so many communities? It's just completely saturated. That's one question. The second is, why do you think that given all these communities, there's still a gap in knowledge transfer and knowledge sharing among different roles, responsibilities, and functions in the security organization? So let's start with one. Why do you think there are so many communities?
It's easy to start a community. It's easy to get fired up and passionate about something, go get a cert or two and knock something down in an organization that people said was, too hard, too difficult, and um, just want to draw people to that, excitement. But there is something to be said for I'll say like a regular drumbeat of cross sector, healthy information flow that comes out of like you'll have a healthcare or a financial services ISAC. You'll have some ISAs are kind of their own thing. They can self create because they're nonprofits like most of these groups. And I think, I can't determine why everybody does what they do, but, if you just look around at, um, generation after generation coming along, everything's done through social media at some point when you get down to, like, high school-ish to college age. Um, you buy a car. Do you ever walk in a brick and mortar bank if someone tells you you have to? Yeah, and so I think that's part of it. It's just easy to set up a community. A lot of communities, I think there's a good, hey, 2 or 3 should stick together, figure out their themes, and go after it. But the ones that seem to be most successful are ones that were started by 2 or 3 folks out of a different sector coming together and saying, we see commonalities and we're about the common, solution intelligence. So, there's a lot of question in there that you asked, so I'm gonna kind of touch
Yeah,
on
yeah,
some
yeah.
more.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. Um, yeah. So I hear commonalities, not necessarily, I also think, by the way, just dropping this, a successful community brings in different trains of thought and opinions too, right?
Yeah,
But
or
what,
people from just different disciplines even,
yeah.
so it's not just all one, one role, one headset.
Why do you think though that, given, all the communities that we have, some are doing a great job, some might be a little bit too opportunistic, some it's hard to do, so might phase out. But why do you think, given all the communities there's still this kind of gap in knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer and collaboration and cross communication? I know it's a loaded question and we don't have enough time today to even tackle
Yeah,
that, but
I got some thoughts.
yeah.
Okay, so one is, I'm gonna share a little bit of philosophy between two groups that we all know, and they host events for IO, ISO, whatever, CHRO, whatever else. Um, so these two groups, one group broke out of another group. Anybody listening to this in community will know exactly what I'm talking about. Doesn't really matter, but they're very structured. They have regular events, they have membership, non-membership. Those communities are fairly successful because they build in a market, find a success plan, build in another market, meet the people, meet the leaders, and there's a lot of feedback and flow. Now, big community of those two does something different. They publish intelligence out of the community very regularly. Um, and the smaller community just doesn't, but maybe for their internal members. And it's more of I would say, more of a elite fee model. So you've got to believe in the people in the community, first of all. Um, so communities of volume, you're probably going to find something of what you want. But let's just say, hey, I'm a fintech in the payment space. I want to find other fintechs in the payment space or healthcare space or other payment companies and there might be a community around that because they're very unique regulatory challenges or privacy or something might drive a little segment or a highly technical topic, fast moving, obviously, generative AI, machine learning, all of these. um, but the motive is the reason. It comes down to the motive. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to be at the top of a small mountain you create? Well, if your name is on everything and you're on top of that mountain, and that's kind of like you're controlling the group, the members don't feel that it's a community for the people, by the people. Um, just to throw some, pre-election ish type jargon out there, right? If the people were going to make a community they wanted, it's not always the same as somebody that's trying to make a profit off of it. Vendors will set up very artful conversations between subject matter experts, somebody that needs to know or wants this market data. The vendor makes a ton of money. The person that sets it up makes a lot of money. The vendor gets a lot of information, and the subject matter experts just spend time on closed door conversations sometimes. So those communities also, you're going to see this push, pull, give of the different groups. Everybody has to get something out of it for a community to be successful. There are some education heavy, ISACA, uh, write an article, CP, CPE, kind of, not that that's good or bad. I'm just saying um, they use that mechanism to drive
Mhm,
communities through.
mhm.
So, sometimes there's you get in there, you're kind of in their aspect. Um, and I just think some people really don't know what they want, and they get out there and they just kind of move around, and those, you know, some will gain success, some will fizzle out, but it's better to be able to look up front and say, what's your purpose? Why are you doing this? How would I contribute? Who would I be in your community? What does your community do for me? And if there's no one to have that kind of conversation with, or if you have to show up to a happy hour to figure that out, it's probably not, professional community is probably a networking, social
Yep.
community. So you
Mhm.
just have to figure out what you're after, what they're after, and try to match it up.
What excites you most when you join a community? Like what's the deciding factors that you take into consideration, like to in being also actively involved? Because there's passive and active involvement in communities, but for active involvement, what are those decision criteria?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna speak out of, me today experience, and then, let's just say I wasn't. Let's say all of a sudden I wanted to be in, a different, arena. What would I look for? Um, so success to me is we've done something. But we're creating things, we're feeding a cycle of improvement. And that could be through education, literature, companies. Like there's a lot of advisory into venture capital, fintech. I don't even know how many VC companies there are at this point. It's a whole darn bunch. And so there's equally as many ideas out there. And so from my experience, I can look at people in the industry that I know, have worked with, have, done panels with, have spent time with, and say, hey, they're in that community. It makes sense for me. So that's me with experience. But if I were just looking at what do I want to do? You know, do I want to deepen knowledge around a certain discipline? I'm going to hunt for those places. Hey, I want to move into a data science job. I'm going to be all over that scene, learning, every type of data modeling, regression, plots, da da da. Um, so, I mean, kind of back to that uh, when people are using others for their purpose, back to that, agenda, like I'm just going to make money off whoever I can get to come in and talk. I don't know if they're good or bad, but they're at this great company. Well, there's some employers that have like 600,000 people. Are they all great? Is it just like you just want to put that logo on your
Right.
right? So that's a nit, and you have to watch for that. And sometimes you'll make a mistake, you trip up, and you just have to maximize what you get out of that mistake. Like, oh
Mhm.
man, I probably shouldn't have done this one, but you know, um, maybe I'm here and they're here, or they're here and I'm here, and
Mhm.
I need to be like 4 years and not two, and
Yeah.
listen more kind of mode.
Oh,
So, um,
mic drop right there. Listen more. 4 ears. I mean, I can't stress that enough. That's a huge, like, grossly underutilized skill in my opinion.
Mhm. You'll hear leaders say, I speak last. Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos, is one that's, he says, I'm not going to go first because people will change what they say because of what I said. Sometimes they won't say what they wanted to say, and he wants to hear them.
Yeah.
And think about it, all these people climbing the ladder. What happens when you get to the top? Your people are under you, not over you. You know, all these
Yeah.
up talkers that ignore folks that are under them when they get up there, just fall off, go to another industry. It's they don't have a group that really follows them. And so it, you have to be a follower to make followers. You have to very clearly say, here's things that brought me to where I'm going and what I value and why, and how I've seen success, or an aspect. Like we've got a huge transformational change. Every company, everywhere, every industry has this all day long. Transformational change is not a buzzword. It's just like, 2024, 25, and the foreseeable future. So as long as we're human managing all of these customer demands, internal demands, um, do people get it? Is it too much? Did 5 changes hit them at once? If you think about the human aspect, you might come up with a lot that makes that side work better. Um, if you focus all on tech, well, if you miss something on tech, you could have some tier 1 media events, uh, but you have to balance things. So there's an orchestration, right? And people think I can't get in. It's too much. It's too chaotic, or there's too many things. Cyber knowledge changes faster than anything. You could read and study for 3 months and jump in with somebody else that's been in the industry for years because the topic's really only, 3 or 6 months old.
How
So,
how are you keeping up with that pace of change?
I read. I study. I will take talks that like I took a network security talk because Secure Edge SaaS, Like, I've never managed that domain. I've managed managers that oversaw that domain, but have I had my hands in there? Did I write firewall rules? Was I monitoring the DMZ? No. So that's how I stay current is I connect with other people. Sometimes just listen. Sometimes I'll just go participate, take a class, take something, educational or hands-on or uh, there's always ways or join a
That
community.
that's interesting. No, no, this is super valuable information because a lot of the stuff that we're doing at the Cybernest is largely knowledge sharing, right? We're bringing in people who are domain experts
Mhm.
and trying to connect them with others who, need to shadow them or learn something new or validate a particular scenario or strategy or something like that. So this is so helpful for me because we always want to improve and we want to innovate and make those, community features, uber valuable. I love this. But I do want to shift the conversation to learn a little bit more about your role as a risk officer. I want to know more about your roles and responsibilities, and as i- i- an executive risk officer, what's kind of your one bleeding neck challenge within the organization?
Oh, okay. I was all geared up for the best part of it. So, no, I tease. Um, actually, I think the challenging part is really the antithesis of the best part. Um, it's it's a concept of more heads are better than one, and multiple heads are better than one. So that's a risk model. In financial services, we have a very detailed and outlined because banking, the whole world has banks, and so there's a three lines of defense model, and risk management can happen at first line, which is operators, domain owners, CISO, CIO, security officer, all of that, all business lines. So you've got embedded risk there. That's my favorite. You have second line risk, which is I'm going to catch what they didn't. And you've got third line, which is completely uniform, independent, uniform practices, independent opinion. They look separately. They report directly to the board. And sometimes they talk all up and down the company, but they are not part of that, catch it, solve it risk equation. And then when I consider fourth line, which is regulators. Um, so from a risk officer's perspective, I've gone from first and second and back into domain management and back to first line. So I popped around in there a few times. And the reason why is first line risk is first line operators are responsible, right? First line risk is a partnership, it's advisory, it's domain maturity modeling, it's mapping, it's hey, here's what's happening. Um, here's regulation that's in draft that will be out in 6 months. Let's start prepping now. Here's the exam calendar as it's shaking out some horizontal exams that are going to come up. And let's make sure that we're geared for, the way they'll talk to us through whatever guideline, handbook, framework, we can respond back. Let's make sure everything's metadata tagged. So, from a risk officer standpoint, depending on where you are in there, um, from a hierarchy standpoint, you're responsible for risk identification, measurement, monitoring, and control. The higher you are, the more responsible you are for the framework, the taxonomy, the overall strategy, how tools are executed and used, how fast findings and issues are closed, the messaging out the door to the board and to the shareholders, if there are any. If it's private, then of course not. But um, so a lot of the job is assessing, looking at things and determining a position. It's better to do that ahead. If we think shift left, do I want everything scanned, patched before it goes into production? Yeah. Do I want it scanned, patched before data hits it in, dev environment? Yes. Do I want, it's the same thing with risk. The earlier you get it, the smaller the weed is when you pull it, the easier it is. Very, very
Mhm.
easy. There's no risk register, there's no fanfare, there's no tail end of a horrible governance, meeting and kind of conversation and explanation to regulators and matters requiring attention and all of that that comes. So that's what a risk officer does. And the most important part is being able to keep pace with the leaders that you can't lead them. You can't be behind them. You have to keep pace with them because it's their strategy. And you
Mhm.
can partner, advise, but it's rare that they would say, hey, risk person, write this out of your head. So it's a partnership and it's just a very necessary one. Risk and
So
security are the key function, really.
right. I understand what's important and how the function, how the role functions, but what is your,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, challenge within that role? Like what is kinda,
Oh,
I hate
yeah.
the question, but keeping you up at night?
Yeah, okay, so I was building to get there, right? So
Oh, yeah.
um, it's the good advice that, you've researched, you've experienced, and then have that couple of dialogues and conversations, and they go a different direction, and then it like epically fails. Um, it's seeing that slow motion train wreck and not being able to prevent it that is the probably top concern of. I would say it's common if you're in this role because that's what you're supposed to do. If you're the cop on the beat and something goes down in the hood that you're watching, it's a problem. And that's exactly what a risk officer does. Um, so that is concerning and problematic. Worse than that, if you're managing people, whether you're a manager of managers or you've got, quote, asterisk specialist that just, it's their first job and they have some skills and they don't know how the company works. You have to make sure that um, people not only have you don't need rule upon rule playbooks that are 300, we'll say virtual pages. I hope they're not printed anywhere. But you need people that can think appropriately. So you need ethical people that are going to be vocal, raise their hand. And that's the other thing is sometimes you adopt a team or a cleanup or whatever, and you've got a bunch of folks that are working for themselves. So
Yeah.
that's another thing that can be quite challenging.
So how do you solve for some of those challenges? I imagine that, it takes time, but what are some of the kind of practical steps that you're taking to bridge those gaps?
Cases are the best because there's something for everybody. If you do like a live screen case, look at some information, look at words on a page, actual system functions, here's how we got from here to here to here. And just explain with visuals, with here was an actual thing that happened in our company, here was the impact, here was, whoever on the team that discovered this and worked with this team for solution. When you do that, people are like, oh, I can repeat that in my world. So that is a huge uh, inspirer. It tells people, here's how I get recognized. I will get recognized. If I do my job right, it's important, it's valuable. Things people know um, are reinforced, things that they don't believe, their mind starts to change. Like, I've been in this environment, nobody's noticed. I've done this forever, and they just expect it from me. But they don't do
Mhm.
it. They get a bigger bonus, or, he got promoted and whatever. And so you don't want a team that's looking at each other. You want a
Mhm.
team that is looking at whatever they're supposed to be doing. Imagine watching a sport. Rugby's fun. It's a big darn circle. You can see everything on that. And you've got, one person that's like off script that acts like they're running the ball for the other goal or something. That all problems. Right. So you have to know enough. Your managers have to be in touch enough that people are communicating, talking, information's being shared. You can see very easily with I'll say the multiple panes of glass we have, if something is, productively off or hits a threshold, but people get signs so much easier.
Right,
So a lot of it's just
I
that.
this is so compelling to me because it sounds like it sounds very much like a human issue, not necessarily a technical issue within organizations, which is quite interesting for me, to hear because it's a recurring theme in the podcast that I hear that, you know, it's about leadership, it's about management, it's about people. before our process and our technology. Um, but at what point, at what point, actually, let me rephrase the question. So let's say, you have a goal, you have to manage your risk. Um, taking into consideration that, high level goal, let's manage our risk. What are kind of the key factors that you consider when you're choosing an actual cybersecurity product to solve for that goal?
Sure. A couple of things. So I think well, I'm an abstract thinker, so I generally will go in multiple angles. I will try to have myself in the business seat, in the technical seat, in the end user seat, in the, I'm the person that just got hit with this tabulating into my risk appetite and tolerances might be going haywire and all kinds of things. So it is important that you don't have to be an abstract thinker, but you have to collect that information. Um, and so it's very important in the risk management process to look at the whole product, sometimes compared to others, sometimes just compared to the problem you're trying to solve and how you can or can't solve it internally. Um, there are many, we'll say, blue ocean strategies where there just aren't a lot of comparables anyway. Um, However, the comparison is going to be um, multifaceted. Can they act like if it's a bank, or healthcare or large industry, energy, education, can they act exactly like we would if we were doing it ourselves? Can they meet those same standards, regulations, whatever? Um, so, or do we have to kind of take part of this in-house and manage it for those reasons? So that's part of it is, are we even secure doing this? How is it going to affect our clients, customers, employees? Are we offloading? There's a company that just said with AI, they're going to cut their workforce in half. It's not Meta. It was NVIDIA, maybe. I
Hmm.
said that somebody, I don't know. I'm going to throw a name out there. Someone's going to like post me later. It wasn't them. But whatever. That story came out a few days ago. Well,
Yeah.
the workforce that's cut is going to get retooled to do something else, either there or somewhere else. So, the human aspect is part of it. The tech has to work. It has to be more efficient. It has to be more cost effective. The more hands you throw in there, it's hard to be more cost effective. And so, you just have to begin to look at it like a mini business project every single time, like a little microcosm of your company. And is there anything in there that's going to throw a flag on the field or throw something out of whack? Uh, uh, then you don't want to do it. If you have to give your keys to the company for, and your information is cryptographically stored, but they can see it. Well, how safe are they? And that's a lot of security vendors, a whole lot right now. So there's aspects like that that you have to um, think through hard. Okay, well, if that's the case, then do I take account numbers out? Do I take human IDs out? Do I take certain corporate confidential or personally identifiable critical data elements out of the equation, obfuscate them, truncate, break them up, do something so that I'm not putting this vendor at risk, me at risk, and all my clients and customers or this group. So that's just the risk mindset is running through what I would call usual suspect questions across certain domains and disciplines. You're going to have a framework. You're going to an internal company framework that's going to be informed as an amalgamation of regulatory guidance, agency information, fast moving parts and pieces like OWASP top 10. I would hope all of a sudden your API security posture, mirrors what they recommend. I would hope that, there's that same reflex with every domain. But that's what risk can bring at that first position. Second line risk is independent. So, second line risk, they will select a time, a place, and a topic and just assess based on things. They really don't tell you up front, but you could know if you did the legwork. So, first line risk wants to identify and solve everything so that there's not much going on with the other groups. So, yeah, what else can I?
I have oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. I wish we had like 2 hours for this, but 1, I wanna be respectful of your time, and 2, we could always do another session, as a part 2 because the I feel like I could get so much awesome insight from you. This is incredible. Now
Well, I'm loving this part of the conversation.
the
So,
yeah,
party.
this is fun, and we're gonna get
Thank
into
you
the
so
juicy
much.
part. This is gonna be the juicy part. We're gonna get to the shit list really, really quickly.
Oh,
But
yay.
before that, I do wanna kind of drill down into some of those red flags. So you mentioned, is my data safe when I either run a POC or hand over the keys to the vendor? What are some other red flags and kind of barriers that you look out for when evaluating a security solution or a product?
Mhm. I mean, access is huge because whatever's in there, that's the gate, right? And so, system access is often overlooked, can be assumed, can be, you know, uh, found easily in open text.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that access issues, unauthorized or whatever, orphaned, latent accounts are just not watched. I would say that's definitely a hygiene item, if not a strategic item. Um, it's still on everybody's number one list. It even kind of slipped off and went right back on. We've got AI and IAM is on top. So I say always, if you're working with a partner, if you're making changes in your environment for improvement, you want to look there. I've seen companies that have had as much as 83% of their cyber force, a major bank in IAM during transitions. That's huge. I saw a 1,500 person team at another bank. Huge. Okay, so that's one. The domains are not all as fast moving, but insider threat, data loss prevention, data is just, all of a sudden top of the pyramid again. Why? Because nobody metadata tagged, because nobody knows what's where, because people have given over 3 times as much and allowed their employees to make 40 copies and play with macros and send it home. So depending on where companies are on that maturity scale, um, there is usually ongoing, long-term work there, and part of it is also how long have you been around? How much data have you accumulated? What's your defensible disposition strategy?
Mhm.
That's another red flag is you don't know how to keep, retain, remove data. You're updating your retention strategy here, there, everywhere because legal is telling you to, and your businesses don't understand it. People will do the wrong things. Lawsuits, financial instruments, or a forever item. Can you imagine some of these banks started in the 1700s? Yeah. Um,
Oof.
yeah, there's actual ink, paper documents stored in little spaces and yeah, bedrock, Fort Knox-ish type. Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
point being is you can't make those mistakes and survive in the industry. So you can't make them on a small scale. You can't make them on a large scale. So I'm kind of going back to this full string of process risk control, the ability to measure it, the ability to make sure that you're where you want to be. It
Mhm.
feeds the operational side. It feeds the what's your risk tolerance. So other red flags are people that don't know their workforce. I've been in companies that nobody's on camera. That was the thing before COVID. It was just a voice on a phone for a conference call many times or in a group and somebody accidentally steps on the Polycom. Oh crap. I mean, well, now we're all virtual. You have to know your workforce. There are
Yeah.
so many people that are hired in that aren't them. Um, and they're not there for that. I
Yeah.
think I've probably said enough, but like it's a huge, huge pervasive risk. IDs being stolen. I blogged on something a few weeks ago, and it was a security company that hired a North Korean hacktivist. Well, it's part of a group where like over 300 companies hired folks out of that group. Why? Because there was an initiative to go into those companies from this hacking group. And so that's a common common problem is we might see, imagine that like POW kind of old school comic book. We might see one point of a problem. We might think it's all about us, our company, our industry, or whatever. It's usually a problem. These are opportunists. Think of water. Where's the lowest point? They're going to go everywhere there's a crack
Yeah.
and
Holy
faster.
shit. I didn't expect those red flags, but that's crazy.
Oh, oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, don't apologize. This is
Make
awesome.
your
I
house more
mean,
into a character. No,
yeah, I mean,
that's
I
not
this is juicy.
dang. Um, yeah, there's people out there that want to ruin our stuff, take down our
Yeah.
brand, steal our secrets.
You know,
Just yeah, bad.
those, implications. I mean, this is why I tell people that marketing in the security space, selling in the security space is so starkly it's just so different than any other tech space because of these repercussions on life, on people. Like, you have to understand these things as a marketer and a salesperson and a founder and somebody who's starting a security firm. Like, you have to understand these things, these how it impacts life, how it impacts people. It could geopolitically impact us. Like, it is so different than any other tech space, and why customer research is so important to pursue in this space. I rest my case. Mic drop there. But let's shift to the fun part. Not that our previous talking points weren't fun. I wanna know what's the worst thing that you've experienced from a vendor.
Oh, from a vendor. Oh, dang. I used to have a strategic sourcing department. This is bad. Let me
Oh,
think. I mean, I'm gonna set aside like major breaches and hacks and things like that because I'm gonna say that kind of has happened to everybody. But all right, I'm gonna give a best and a worst because I can't give a worst without a best. I just feel like a jerk. Um, I mean, the worst is literally a vendor coming in, learning what we do via our questions, turning around, using our name and selling the fact that we have a relationship to others when we really don't, when it was a proof of concept or a meeting. I've had that happen. Um, where, somebody will call, they'll be like, hey, over at the other bank, because we're all friends. You guys are working with them? I didn't know. Like, how's it working for you? We're not working with them. We just met with them last week. Right. So I've had that where there's just like unethical. Um, some vendors just have no respect for people and just objectify their clients in all kinds of ways. Oh, I can get the business if I take you to XYZ, expensive place, the city, we make a little thing of it or whatever. Um, so there's that. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna give a best. The best is
yeah.
when people like listen, hear you, and say, we maybe don't have that, but we are gonna work on that like for a week and we want to come back and show you how we're gonna go to the future with you. That's a partner. So it's a big difference. So anybody that's like going the other direction, what can I get from you is not gonna last.
Yeah. Well, you beat me to the punch because I do ask what is the best thing, like what's good, right? Like what's worked for you. So I love that, and I love to hear
Let me
that
think
because
along.
yeah, I mean, look, you guys are uh uh the space, it's about maintaining progress. It's about growing and innovating together and coming together for one cause. So if a vendor can be a partner and listen and apply what they're hearing from that feedback, hallelujah, love it. We are headed towards the end of the session, and I want to know, are there any imparting thoughts you want to share with our audience today?
Um, if you're watching, you want to be in cyber or security or tech, I think you do. Yeah. Pursue it. Learn some skills on the side. It will help you wherever you are. I mean, that's kind of my message is it's not too hard. There's something for everybody. And we need more excited, energized, good heads in the equation to solve hard problems and bring us into these fun innovations. That's what we are really in it for is how do we make the successes come faster, not just stop the threat actors, but how do we make the successes materialize in a way that we feel good about people, jumping in and using that flying car or whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that. And, before we sign off, what are kind of, in your opinion, the characteristics that aren't necessarily, how do you say, you know, listed on paper, if you will, right? What are some of the characteristics people should have if they want to pursue a career in security?
Intellectual curiosity is huge. You want to know how things work. You want to be able to explain it to others. You're just fascinated by it. That is a sign. You're a do the right thing kind of person. Nobody's looking. You got out to the car and oh darn, there's that charcoal under my basket. I didn't pay for it. I go back into the store in the rain. You're that person that you're going to stand up for somebody who hasn't, and you're not going to do the wrong things yourself when you're given the opportunity because these positions sometimes offer a lot. You find a bug, there's a bounty waiting for you that's not through your company. You get data, people will try to buy it from you or get you to do things sometimes that you're shocked. Wow, how did they find me? Your LinkedIn profile. So, there is that too. Intellectual curiosity, wanting to do the right thing, being kind. These are all free. So everybody's head can wrap around a skill or two in there. There's nothing that's too hard. So.
I love it. I love it. This has been fabulous. You're always welcome to the show. I know I'm going to bug you one more time. We're going to do a part two because there are so many questions I have for you. This was super insightful. And I know it's going to be really valuable for those listening and those who are going to also read our distilled insights from the episode. So please, by all means, come back again. And where can people find you?
So I don't currently have a website, so I'm just on LinkedIn, Amy Chaney. I'm the banker. I'm a speaker, frequent speaker, and do a lot of that sort of thing. So you might see me here on another amazing cybercast, although I can't imagine going anymore. So um, that's where you'll find me, and then I look forward to coming back again. It's always great to have the chance to talk about some really important things.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been really critical and helpful for me. I'm going to go back and drill down and start applying some of the insights that I learned today. So thank you so much for spending a little bit over an hour with us. I think we signed on about an hour ago, and thank you again.
Yeah, thanks so much. I will talk to you soon.
All right. This has been another episode of Audience First. We are out.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.